I welcome everyone here. Before we do introductions, I will ask that we have a roll call and certify a physical quorum. Ms. Scott?
Yes, sir. Town of Ashland, Dr. McGraw.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins. Chesterfield County, Mr. Engel.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhour. Hanover County, Vice Chair Davis.
Present.
Henrico County, Reverend Nelson.
Here.
New Kent County, Ms. Stewart.
Here.
Powhatan County, Mr. McClung.
Here.
And City of Richmond, Dr. Newbill.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Very well, thank you, ma'am. So this is our inaugural meeting. Not only is it the first one of the year, but it's also the first one after our last election cycle. So I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here for the executive committee meeting. If we briefly go around the room, folks get a chance to introduce themselves, tell us where you're from and anything else that you would like for us to know about you. And I'll start. I'm Sean Davis. I serve out of Hanover County and currently serve as vice chair, acting chair for PlanRVA. So, Mr. Engel.
Jim Engel, Chesterfield County, and guess this is my second term, I guess. I don't know how the terms work,
Just roll again.
but yeah, I guess we all roll, right? Because everybody has a different election year. So glad to be back again and glad to be sitting in on the exec committee.
I'm not really here, I'm just listening.
No, you're here.
Oh, I'm here?
You're here. We're not gonna skip over you,
Okay.
ma'am.
I'm Jessica Schneider, new member to Chesterfield County. Just wanted to observe and see what was happening, just to get myself informed. More
Thanks.
information is better, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here, Ms. Snyder. Yes, sir.
Tyrone Nelson, Henrico County, current chair of the board, and former, is this president? What's your title?
Well, it would be chair, but
Chair,
we can
yeah.
call you a past president.
So Dr. Newbill and I, we're the old guard on the PlanRVA now. PlanRVA.
Yes, sir.
Milton Hathaway, I think I'm supposed to be in the next meeting. But I'm a new planning commission member for New Kent District 3.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for being here. Dr. McGraw.
Daniel McGraw, Town of Ashland, and am I the secretary or am I vice chair now?
We're gonna work on that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
We've had some changes. But we'll
All
work
right.
on it.
So, somewhere in the lineup.
I'm Jordan Stewart, brand new to the board in New Kent, and I'm in eastern New Kent, it's practically Williamsburg, but happy to be here, happy to figure out what I'm gonna be doing.
Byron Atkins, Charles City. I'm on PlanRVA, CVTA, and our RTO background.
Dr. Newbill.
Cynthia Newbill, Richmond City Council, and as Mr. Nelson said, I guess we're the old guard, so I have had the pleasure of serving as chair here and working with the regional body and certainly with Martha and staff, and look forward to even greater efforts and accomplishments in this new year.
Mr. McGraw.
I'm Steve McClung, District 2 Supervisor, Powhatan County. This is my second term and now the acting chair of the Powhatan County Board of Supervisors. This is my second term with PlanRVA, I guess. So.
Yes, indeed.
And I don't know what my role is yet, so. But I'm here.
We're gonna work on that
That's
too.
right.
Good morning. My name is Martha Schickel. I'm the executive director here at PlanRVA. And this is my second term too, I guess. I'm just kidding. I've been here 8 years, so.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for doing that. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak to the commission on any matter within the commission's authority? Anyone online? Hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda item. The agenda amendments, there are no amendments. Have all board members had an opportunity to review the agenda, and do they request any amendments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
So there's motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is request for approval of the July 13th minutes. Have all board members had an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any requested additions or changes? Is there a motion to approve? So motion,
Second.
we have a second. Any discussion? Although,
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here.
very well. So we'll call for abstentions as well. Thank you for that. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Is that recorded, Ms. Scott?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Next item on the agenda is PlanRVA staffing needs. We've talked about this for a little bit, and for those who, and if I use the term new, that's a descriptor, not an identifier. PlanRVA, our staffing, it's a little different than either back at home sometimes with your localities or even in the private sector. So because our staff bills for the work that we do, when we have folks there, we increase our revenues legitimately through the work performance of these individuals. So when we have open positions, we take it very seriously, because one, we'll have work product that still needs to get done, and then we have folks who we need to bill for the legitimate needs of the region. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Schickel if she'll cover the staff organizational structure and position assignments at this time.
Chair Day, can I
Yes,
ask a quick question before, Ms. Schickel?
Certainly.
I'm just trying to get the time schedule right. So executive committee is at 8:30, regular meeting is 9:30. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so that's for the year.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Ms. Schickel.
Thank you. Well, thanks for that intro. I wanted to just be able to give a little bit of background for folks that this is their first executive committee meeting. One of the roles of the executive committee is to serve as the personnel committee. And so when we have personnel requests, we come to the executive committee for consideration. So that's why this is before the committee today. We have put together a memo of some information for you that hopefully legitimizes the request. But essentially, we're asking for approval mid-fiscal year to hire 2 new planner positions. As Mr. Davis said, when we experience a vacancy, it actually has an adverse effect on our revenue, on our bottom line. So our staff members our organization essentially operates like a consulting company would. And so most of our team members are billing to grant programs. And so when we don't have hours to bill to a grant program, we're not able to pull in that revenue. And in cases where we have positions that are vacant that would, if filled, bill to a grant program, we still have our administrative and operating and overhead expenses. And so that billing comes down, but those costs that are not directly reimbursable from grants are sustained. And so you can imagine pretty easily that balance gets out of balance. We've struggled, as some of you probably are aware, to fill the vacancy with the RRTPO director position. It was vacated earlier this year by Chet Parsons moving over to become the full-time executive director of the CVTA. We've advertised it both as an administrator role and as a director role, thinking that perhaps language or sort of marketing would help with that. And unfortunately, we've just continued to have over the last 4 months minimal effort or minimal interest, I'll say, in the position. We've had 2 promising candidates that we've tried to move through the recruitment process with interviews. But unfortunately, both of them have withdrawn their applications after evaluating more closely the costs and the implications for their families to relocate to Virginia, and Richmond specifically. We did make it through second round interviews with one of the candidates and went so far as to make an offer, but unfortunately, he declined the offer after he and his family were able to confer on the specifics of what a move would entail. So this isn't terribly uncommon. We've had more senior level positions open in the past, and it's been increasingly difficult to compete, as you all know, in the marketplace, particularly for seasoned professionals in the domain of transportation in particular. It's a kind of a niche field, and it requires a certain speciality. And so earlier this year, I did move forward with advertising to junior level planner positions to be able to see whether we would have a better candidate pool there, which we did. And so we have reached the point where we have 2 positions that were at 2 different stages. One at having completed the final round of interviews, and we have a preferred candidate. The second position, we're just about ready to start second round interviews. And so I'd like to request approval to fill those 2 positions. They were not originally planned in the current fiscal year staff makeup, but given the vacancy for the first half of the fiscal year in that TPO director position, we do have the financial resources to fill the two junior planner positions. And the projections for funding, our grant awards for next year, fiscal 2025, are sufficient to sustain those positions into the next fiscal year. So I think, it's a wise move on our part to be able to give some relief to staff who are carrying sometimes double, Miles in particular, who's carrying sort of triple duty right now with his intended position, and also being able to upfill and backfill for the roles that are vacant, but also to be able to give a little bit extra help to be able to carry out the work that's been assigned through the Unified Planning Work Program this year. So the memo kind of gives the details of how the salaries get distributed. We've also been able to, this fiscal year, realign our organizational structure to be able to better fit the leadership of the program areas that we have, all of that functioning within the approved budget, but we wanted to get the executive committee's approval to be able to move forward with the creation and filling of these two new planning positions.
So with that, a little bit of the backstory. A lot of credit goes to Dr. Newbill and Reverend Nelson for some of the personnel initiatives that they worked on while they were chair. This coincides with what the commission was looking at, local technical assistance program, which has just skyrocketed, and I think the commission and their leadership did a great job when we formed that. So that program is being utilized probably more than we thought it was going to be utilized. So these are the two positions that have been talked about prior, getting in there to make sure that we have a full complement to support our localities. I do want to just plant some seeds. We have looked at the TPO director, and a number of things have been discussed, and we're not bringing it to, speaking of TPO, Chairman Holland from the TPO is here. Also our Finance Committee Chair. Thank you for being here, Mr. Holland. There's been some talk with our organization and the connectivity that it has. Originally when CVTA was formed through a legislative function, we weren't quite sure how that was going to work with everybody. And I'm the first to tell you, I said, if they're going to be housed in PlanRVA, then they need to be in the back of the office somewhere. We don't want a lot of crossover and a lot of things interfering with our operations. That has become a great relationship. It's worked very well. The first thing that we did, and Dr. Newbill knows this, was the CVTA had no problem with their memorandum of understanding on the fiscal side, and they contributed dollar for dollar everything that we provided support on. So we have no issue there. But there is some discussion and some thoughts around, we have an executive director of PlanRVA, and the TPO is housed inside PlanRVA. Open for some discussion. We're not going to make a personnel decision now, but would it make sense to have the same leadership at PlanRVA being the same leadership of the TPO, and having that program not only housed in PlanRVA where it is now, but having the executive director of PlanRVA also providing daily support and leadership to the TPO, because the two organizations are so closely melded together. And I say that, and I think we're in a fortunate position because we have good leadership in our executive director. So that is going to be something that's brought up to be talked about, whether there should be a step down from TPO under PlanRVA, or should that be part of the daily duties of the executive director of PlanRVA, maybe with some staff support. So, because Martha does work a lot, obviously, inside the TPO, and now that Chet's over with the Transportation Authority. So that's not really up for any voter decision today, but I would like the executive committee and the leadership in this room to be thinking about that, and we can have some discussions. As far as the two positions, this is just fulfilling the directive of the commission and the executive committee for those planners that the committee members said that we needed and we had to have. and we coincides with the legitimate work that needs to be done by those folks. So I'll now open it up for discussion. Anybody have any discussion on the possibility of approving these two positions that were brought to us by the commission previously as directed by the full body?
I have one question, Mr.
Yes, sir,
Chair.
please.
What is the exact titles of the two positions? Are they both planners, or are they both, you said
They're both-
executive and
they're both-
administrative?
No, they are both planner positions, yeah.
Anything else? So executive committee does handle personnel by direction and authority of the full commission. So if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve the two positions?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Dr. Newbill. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. McClung. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, JLARC report on K-12 funding. We're gonna have some folks talk about that. Really need to recognize Mr. Engel and Dr. Newbill on this as well. It was an initiative that was brought forward to the region that we're excited to work on and help facilitate and do a number of different things. But I'll open the floor to either of my esteemed colleagues if they want to talk about these, and then I think Ms. Schickel's gonna give us an executive update on that. So, Mr. Engel?
Well, we met in, it was a little bit longer meeting than I think any of us had counted on, but it certainly touched a nerve with all of the leaders in the region, as I'm sure it is in the whole state. Unfortunately, we're so late to the game. In the end, I think what we agreed to was letting the budget cycle get done. They have appointed a group to study JLARC, because that's what you do when you get a study, you get another group to study the study. And so they're gonna study the study and come back with recommendations in November. And we are looking to gear up to be meeting with that committee as they finish up this session's work, so that we can be in a good place for their, whatever they're going to bring forward in November to recommend for the next session. So it's not where I think any of us like to be, because education, although I think General Assembly is gonna do more than what was in the governor's budget, I'm not sure that education's gonna get nearly the funding that it needs to have, so that our jurisdictions aren't left holding the bags, because that's what really happens is the state just pushes it down on the jurisdictions, and the local jurisdictions become the catch-all to try to figure out a way to fund schools when it's really their responsibility. So we are gonna continue working together and hopefully be a part of that recommendation from that committee in November. Does that sum it up well?
That's a great summary. I think I was particularly encouraged by the fact that our jurisdictions certainly see the opportunity in coming together around education, and specifically some of the findings from JLARC and the implications thereof. So I'm looking forward to us really having or developing that regional response and advocacy strategy to hopefully allow us to have access to more resourcing for our community. So yes.
Well, thank you both, and to your point, maybe we didn't hit, the home run, we didn't get everything we wanted, but we've been policymakers and we understand how that works. We don't always get everything we want. I know in Hanover, our LCI just went to 49, and that's just the nature of the beast, and we have 5 years, and I'm sure everybody else's locality has changed. It's not lost on any of us that Dr. McGraw has connections in the education community, a little bit deeper than most of us sitting at this table. But are your students learning Latin today while you're here, or what do you?
They learn Latin 24/7.
Is that, they love it that much?
Yes, that's, they eat, sleep, yes.
Yeah, sic semper tyrannis. So, any other comments on that? I mean, this would not have happened without these folks here, and so thank you for that. Do you want to give us an executive brief?
Sure.
Ms. Schickel, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just put some finer points on Mr. Engel's summary. Natalie Spillman and Mike Sherman have been in contact with me pretty regularly over the last couple of weeks since the start of the session, just kind of tracking things. So just to give you an update since last week, which is really where the activities happen. Delegate Simons with co-patrons Delegate Sullivan and Delegate Watts are carrying what's known as HJ 67. And that's the joint resolution that establishes a joint committee consisting of 5 members of the House Committee on Education and 3 members of the Senate Committee on Education and Health to study fair school funding reform, among other things, identifying and commissioning an independent firm with certain qualifications to produce an adequacy cost study on Virginia's K-12 public schools and utilizing the fundings from such study, the recommendations from the JLARC report, and any stakeholder input and feedback received. That work in the original bill was set to complete by November 2025 and provide a set of recommendations on transitioning Virginia's K-12 funding system. The good news is that bill reported out unanimously from the Rules Committee and was referred to House Appropriations, Elementary and Secondary Education Subcommittee. Those members include Delegate Rasul, who chairs, Belova, McQuinn, Sewell, Askew, Marshall, Coiner, Campbell, and Torian, so 2 from our region. The good news also about this is that there's been a change in the resolution language for the better, and so essentially they've upped the timeline from November 1, 2025 to November 1, 2024, with the idea that it would actually be able to influence and affect the 2025 General Assembly session. So that's the very good news. So as I think Mr. Engel indicated, really until we get through this budget cycle, but also the session, the committee will convene, but they'll be on a pretty aggressive timeline, as you can imagine, to meet that November 1st, 2024 deadline. So that was passed unanimously out of subcommittee, and it looks like it's probably gonna be on the, actually, it probably was already on the Appropriations Committee this week, but it hadn't posted yet. So when Natalie sent me the email on Tuesday. So some important dates to remember: crossover for the General Assemblies on 2/13 next week. And then on 2/18, that's Budget Sunday. And so that's when the money committees will recommend their proposed budgets. And that'll be when it'll be available to us, maybe late Sunday, so probably early Monday. But then 3/9 is really the target date for the close of the session. We'll see whether there is a need to do a reconvened in session in April. But those would be the kind of key dates to watch, and we'll certainly be reviewing this, and Natalie and Mike have committed to be able to provide another report, which I can do electronically if you like, following the release and crossover and the release of the revised budget. So can keep you posted as this evolves.
All right. And I was just sending a message to, thank you. Any comment on that? I was just sending a message to Dr. Casey to see if there was anything we could share on Mr. Carroll, but let's just keep him in our thoughts and prayers.
He called me this morning, but I didn't catch his call, and I tried to get him back. I haven't got him back yet, but I wasn't expecting that call. But he is doing fairly well, and if things continue to go well, he could go home as early as this weekend, which I think is ahead of what they thought might happen.
Great.
So, although if you've ever been in the hospital, hardly anybody ever goes home on the weekends.
Yeah.
They usually hold them till Monday for a regular doctor to come in and release them.
Sure.
But he is, he'll be down out of ICU as soon as they have a room for him. He's been in ICU for over 24 hours waiting on a room to get out of ICU.
Okay. And they gave him his cell phone, so.
Well, unless his wife called me from his
That's
phone,
fair.
but she has texted me from her phone. So I don't think she called me. I think somehow he must have got his phone back, and
I would put my money on that he got his phone back.
Unless they moved him.
oh, they might have
They were
moved him.
waiting for a
But it
step
came
down.
through from his phone, not from
Yeah.
so I don't know for sure it was Kevin, but I got a call this morning from Kevin that I wasn't able to take.
Well, we don't have him logged on remotely, so that's a good thing. So thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, thank you for that. Is there anything further? Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you for the heavy work. I will plant this last seed. We may have to do a pull-up We know we have now adjusted our schedule at PlanRVA, the TPO, the leadership of Chairman Holland. But we may have to do a pull-up executive committee meeting as it relates to officers and elections, maybe some personnel things. So if it's okay with folks, unless I hear a massive amount of opposition, we may look at having either another executive committee meeting to handle a few things in February or early March. Would that be okay if we can get everybody's schedule? Okay, we'll try to do that, but there are some matters that are gonna need to be handled after a few discussions. Nothing negative, just business matters that are gonna have to come, but we do need to look at our officers and get those things done and form a nominating committee. Okay? Ms. Scott, the time is 9:04.